Hey, welcome to the channel. Let's explore what the book has to offer. Oh, and keep an eye out for small notes that will pop up on your screen at regular intervals, perfect for quick takeaways and jotting down some life-changing insights. So, let's jump right in and see what this book can teach us.
All right, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. You know, the one that's practically a Silicon Valley manifesto.
Yeah, it's like required reading out there.
But what makes it so interesting, at least to me, is that it challenges a lot of the conventional wisdom about business. Like, think about it, we're always told that competition is good.
Right, survival of the fittest, all that.
But Thiel actually argues that competition can be a trap, especially for startups.
It is kind of a contrarian take, especially coming from a guy who built PayPal and Palantir. I mean, his experience investing in companies like Facebook and SpaceX definitely gives him a different perspective.
That's what I love about this book. It's not just theory. It's battle-tested wisdom. For sure. So for this deep dive, we're not just going to summarize the book. We're going to unpack the big ideas, the ones that could actually change how you approach building a business.
Sounds good.
All right, so let's start with the basics. What exactly does Thiel mean by 0 to 1?
It's all about creating something truly new, something the world has never seen before. It's that leap from 0 to 1, from nothing to something groundbreaking.
So like the invention of the internet or the first iPhone, something like that.
Exactly. It's not about copying what already exists or iterating on existing ideas. It's about forging a completely new path.
So 0 to 1 is radical innovation. And he contrasts that with globalization, which he sees as more about copying what works and spreading it around.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so that's 0 to 1. But one of the things that really threw me for a loop in this book was Thiel's argument about monopolies. He actually says that certain types of monopolies can be good for society.
Yeah, that's one of the most controversial parts of the book, for sure.
I mean, we're taught that monopolies are the bad guys, right? They stifle competition, they drive up prices. But Thiel seems to think they can be a force for good. How does that even work?
So he makes a distinction between creative monopolies, which are built on genuine innovation, and the kind of monopolies that arise from, shady practices or exploiting loopholes. He's not advocating for those.
Got it. So not all monopolies are created equal. But how can a monopoly, even a so-called creative one, actually benefit society?
Thiel's argument is that when a company creates something truly new and valuable, something that's a 0 to 1 breakthrough, they often end up dominating their market, not because they're crushing the competition in the traditional sense, but because they're creating a whole new category where they're the only player.
So it's less about being the best at the existing game and more about inventing a whole new game where you set the rules.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
And, I could see how that could lead to innovation. If a company has that kind of market dominance, they have the resources to invest in long-term research and development to take risks that smaller companies might not be able to afford.
Exactly. A good example of this is Google. When they first launched their search engine, it was so much better than anything else available. It wasn't just competing with other search engines, it was creating a whole new way to access information.
It was like opening up a whole new dimension of the internet. And that dominance in search allowed them to build a massively successful business.
Right. And that gave them the resources to then invest in all these other crazy projects like self-driving cars and artificial intelligence.
So in a way, their monopoly in search ended up fueling innovation in other areas.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how Thiel connects like 0 to 1 thinking with the idea of creative monopolies. But there's another piece of this puzzle that we haven't talked about yet. Competition. Thiel actually seems to think that competition can be pretty destructive.
Yeah, he sees it as a trap that can actually prevent companies from achieving those 0 to 1 breakthroughs.
That's so counterintuitive, though. We're always told that competition is the engine of progress. It's what drives companies to innovate, to improve, to offer better products and services. So how can competition be a bad thing?
Thiel's argument is that when you're laser focused on beating your rivals, you end up playing their game. You get caught up in this incrementalism, this constant battle for market share, and you lose sight of the bigger picture.
You're so busy fighting over the scraps that you forget to look for the whole pie.
Right. And he actually has a pretty intense example from his own experience to illustrate this point. He talks about the rivalry between PayPal and X.com back in the early days.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about that. It sounds like it was a pretty brutal battle.
It was an all-out war. Both sides were working crazy hours. They were constantly trying to outmaneuver each other, and it got pretty nasty at times. He even mentions an engineer who designed a bomb to take out X.com servers.
Wow, that's insane.
Obviously, nobody actually went through with it, but it just goes to show how intense things got.
And that's exactly what Thiel's warning against. That kind of cutthroat competition can be incredibly distracting and ultimately counterproductive.
It can totally suck the energy and creativity out of a company.
So how do you escape that trap? If competition is so ingrained in how we think about business, how do you break free and actually achieve those 0-to-1 breakthroughs?
That's where Thiel introduces his concept of definite optimism. He contrasts it with the kind of vague Silicon Valley optimism that's all about, like, the future is bright, but without any real substance.
It's that things will get better feeling, but without any concrete plan to actually make them better.
Right. It's like hoping for the best, but not actually doing anything to make it happen.
So what's definite optimism then?
Definite optimism is about believing that the future can be better, but it's also about believing that we have the power to make it better. It's about having a clear vision of what you want to create and a plan to get there.
It's about being intentional with your actions, with your choices, with your life.
Yeah, and not just sitting back and waiting for things to happen.
I love that. So it's about taking control of your destiny.
Right.
Okay, so we've got this definite optimism. We're thinking big. We're not afraid to challenge the status quo. We're not getting sucked into the trap of competition. What's the next step on this journey to 0-to-1?
Thiel believes that one of the key ingredients is a willingness to embrace secrets.
Secrets. What do you mean by that?
He's not talking about keeping your ideas hidden from the world or like being sneaky.
Okay, good. Because that sounds kind of shady.
He's talking about seeking out unique insights, those hard truths that other people might miss or dismiss. It's about being willing to see the world differently.
So it's about having a unique perspective, a different lens through which you see the world and the problems you want to solve.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And it ties back to his skepticism of competition. If everyone is focused on the same obvious problems, using the same conventional approaches, nobody's going to achieve those 0-to-1 breakthroughs.
You need to go off the beaten path, right?
Yeah.
Explore the uncharted territories.
Exactly. And to do that, you need to believe that there are still things out there that haven't been discovered, secrets waiting to be uncovered.
So it's about having faith in the unknown, in the possibility that there's still so much more to learn and to create.
Definitely.
Okay, but you can't do it alone,
Right.
right? Even with all the definite optimism and secret hunting in the world, you still need a team to bring those ideas to life. Thiel talks a lot about the importance of building the right team. What does that look like?
He really emphasizes the need for shared vision and values. He actually compares choosing your co-founders to getting married.
Wow, that's a pretty serious commitment.
Yeah, it is. He wants you to think about the long haul, the tough times, the moments when your belief will be tested. You need people who are truly aligned, not just in terms of skills, but also in their fundamental outlook on the world.
So it's not just about finding people who are good at what they do. It's about finding people who share your passion, your drive, your willingness to challenge conventions.
Exactly. He even makes this provocative comparison of successful startups to cults.
Cults, like the drink the Kool-Aid kind of cults.
Well, he's not advocating for anything harmful or unethical, but he's highlighting the power of a truly unified team, one that's driven by a shared purpose that goes beyond just making money.
It's about that shared intensity, that unwavering belief in a common mission.
Right, that willingness to go against the grain.
So it's about finding those people who not only share your vision, but also share your passion, your drive, your willingness to challenge conventions. It sounds like a rare and special thing.
It definitely is. It's about finding the people who will help you bring those secrets to life, who will go on that 0-to-1 journey with you through all the ups and downs.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground already.
Yeah.
We've talked about 0-to-1 thinking, the power of creative monopolies, the pitfalls of competition, the importance of definite optimism, and the need for a truly aligned team. But there's still so much more to unpack.
There is.
We've only just scratched the surface of Thiel's ideas.
Yeah, in the next part, we're going to dig into his 7 key questions for evaluating any business idea, explore the lessons of the clean tech bubble, and examine his thoughts on the relationship between man and machine.
So much to look forward to.
So last time we were talking about building a great team, finding those people who are as passionate as you are about solving these problems.
It's like assembling your own Justice League, except instead of fighting supervillains, you're taking on like industry giants and outdated ideas.
That's a good analogy. But finding the right people is just one part of the equation. Thiel also provides a framework for evaluating the business idea itself. He has these 7 key questions that he uses to analyze why so many clean tech companies failed, even though it seemed like such a promising sector.
Yeah, that always felt like a missed opportunity. All those companies trying to create a cleaner future. What happened?
Well, Thiel uses these 7 questions to kind of diagnose what went wrong, and they're not just relevant to clean tech. They can be applied to any business, really. It's like a checklist to help you assess whether an idea truly has 0 to 1 potential.
Ooh, a checklist. I love checklists. Okay, let's break it down. What's the first thing a business needs to consider, according to Thiel?
The first question is all about technology. Can your company create breakthrough technology, not just incremental improvements? Thiel is really adamant about this. He says you need a significant advantage, like a 10x improvement over existing solutions.
10 times? That seems like a lot. Why so much?
Because it's not enough to be slightly better. You need to be dramatically better to cut through the noise. In the real world, you're competing for attention, for investment, for customers. If your technology is only marginally better, it's going to get lost. Only a radical improvement can create a sustainable advantage.
Okay, so just being better isn't enough. You need to be a game changer. Got it. What's the second question?
Timing. Is now the right time to start your particular business? Even the most brilliant technology can fail if it's launched at the wrong time.
Yeah, there's that saying, right? Being too early is the same as being wrong.
Exactly. He uses the example of the first wave of internet companies back in the late 90s. Many of them had fantastic ideas, but they were just ahead of their time. The infrastructure wasn't there, consumer behavior hadn't caught up. It's like trying to sell smartphones before everyone had broadband.
Right, it wouldn't make sense.
So timing is critical, and it's incredibly hard to predict. Thiel encourages entrepreneurs to really study the market, the trends, the regulations, really be honest with themselves about whether the world is actually ready for their idea.
It's about finding that sweet spot where the technology is mature enough and the market is ready to embrace it. Okay, so we've got the technology, we've got the timing. What's next on Thiel's list?
This one brings us back to monopolies. The third question is, does your company have a path to creating a monopoly, at least in a specific niche?
Okay, so we're back to monopolies. But didn't he say that monopolies could be good?
Yeah, he believes certain types of monopolies can be beneficial, but he's very specific about what kind he's talking about. The ones that arise from genuine innovation, from creating something so valuable that it naturally dominates the market.
Right, those creative monopolies. So how do you actually build one of those?
He encourages entrepreneurs to start small, focus on a specific niche where they can truly excel, and really dominate that niche before expanding to other areas. He uses the example of Amazon. They started by just selling books online.
Right, and then they gradually expanded to everything under the sun.
Exactly. It's that classic crossing the chasm strategy. Win over a small group of early adopters. Once you've got a foothold, then you can branch out to the wider market.
Find your beachhead, build your fortress, and then expand from there.
I like it. All right, on to question number 4. What's Thiel's take on building the right team? He really stresses the importance of choosing co-founders and early employees who are not just skilled, but also share your vision and values. Like your work ethic should be similar, that sort of thing.
We touched on this earlier. Picking your co-founder is almost like choosing a life partner.
Yeah, that's not an exaggeration. You're going to spend a lot of time with these people, go through a lot of challenges together. You need to make sure you're on the same page, not just about the business, but about life.
Like forming a band. You need to be able to harmonize, Okay, we've got the team in place. We're building this amazing product. But how do we actually get it out into the world?
That's question number 5, distribution. Can your company get its product to customers effectively and efficiently?
He doesn't believe in build it and they will come, does he?
Nope, not at all. He actually debunks that myth pretty thoroughly. You need a solid plan to get your product in front of the right people.
He's a big fan of the power law of distribution, right? Where one really effective channel can be way more impactful than a bunch of mediocre ones.
Right, and he encourages people to be creative with distribution. Sometimes the best channels are the ones that nobody else is thinking about.
It's about finding that one lever that can move the needle rather than trying to pull every lever at once. Makes sense. Okay, 2 more questions to go. What's next?
Number 6 is all about durability. Will your company be around a decade from now?
Oh, wow. That's a long time. So we're not just thinking about the next quarter, the next year. We're thinking about building something that can last.
Exactly. It's about building a business that can withstand competition, adapt to changing markets.
Survive the inevitable ups and downs.
Exactly. He talks about PayPal. They went through so much intense competition, regulatory hurdles, but they ultimately built a durable business that's still thriving today.
So build to last. Got it. What's the final question on Thiel's list?
This one brings us full circle, back to secrets. Does your company have a secret? Like some unique insight or advantage that others don't see?
Okay, so it's not just about having a secret. It's about having that different way of thinking that allows you to see those opportunities that everyone else is missing.
Exactly. Thiel believes all truly great companies are built around secrets. It could be a new technology, a new business model, a deep understanding of customer needs that nobody else has tapped into. It's what gives you an edge.
It's like having that secret ingredient that makes your dish unique and irresistible. I like it.
So yeah, those are Thiel's 7 questions. They're a pretty comprehensive framework for thinking about whether an idea really has the potential to be a 0 to 1 success.
They really make you think. But looking back at the clean tech industry, it seems like a lot of those companies had great intentions. They were trying to solve a real problem. Why did so many of them fail?
That's what Thiel's trying to figure out with these questions. He thinks a lot of those companies weren't asking the right questions. They got caught up in the hype, the promise of a huge market, and they didn't focus enough on the fundamentals of building a durable, profitable business.
They were playing the old game instead of inventing a new one.
Right. And they often became too reliant on government subsidies and venture capital funding instead of figuring out how to build a business that could stand on its own 2 feet.
It's a cautionary tale, for sure. A reminder that good intentions aren't enough. You need a solid plan, a clear vision, and a willingness to challenge assumptions.
Absolutely. Okay, we've been talking a lot about building successful companies, but Thiel also has some really interesting thoughts on technology in general, especially artificial intelligence. He's not as doom and gloom as a lot of people, right?
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be buying into the whole robots are going to take over the world scenario. Why is that?
He sees computers and AI as more of an evolution, a new chapter in human progress. He thinks we should be focusing on how they can augment human capabilities, help us solve bigger problems.
So instead of being afraid of AI, we should be thinking about how we can work with it, how we can partner with it to achieve more than we ever could alone.
Exactly. Thiel thinks the most valuable companies in the future won't be the ones trying to replace humans, but the ones that find ways to use computers to help humans do amazing things.
It's like that old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. Except in this case, it's more like, let's team up and create something awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Thiel actually uses this cool analogy. He compares humans and computers to the division of labor that already exists between people. We don't all try to do everything ourselves, right? We specialize in different areas and then trade with each other to get what we need.
So it's like acknowledging that computers have strengths that complement human strengths, rather than seeing them as a threat.
Exactly. Computers are great at things that humans find difficult, like processing massive amounts of data or doing complex calculations. But humans are still better at things like creativity, problem solving, making judgments in complex situations.
It's about using the best of both worlds to create something truly innovative.
Right. And this leads to another important point. We shouldn't be afraid to use computers to tackle really big, ambitious problems, like the kind of problems that seem impossible to solve.
So don't shy away from the hard stuff. Embrace the challenge. Use technology as a tool to make the world a better place.
Exactly. I think Thiel would definitely agree with that.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it that way. We're not just passive observers in this technological revolution. We can actually shape it.
Totally. And I think that's one of the most important takeaways from 0 to 1, this idea that we have agency, that we can create the future we want to see.
It's not about waiting for things to happen.
Yeah.
It's about making them happen.
Exactly. And I think that ties into Thiel's whole emphasis on thinking for yourself. He's constantly pushing back against that herd mentality, the tendency to just follow the crowd, accept the status quo.
Right. He wants us to be more skeptical, to question assumptions, to carve our own path.
Absolutely. And to have the courage to pursue those crazy ideas that everyone else might think are impossible.
He's almost saying that to really innovate, you need to be a little bit rebellious. You need to be willing to go against the grain.
Yeah, definitely. And that requires a certain level of confidence, a belief that you might actually be right, even when everyone else is telling you you're wrong.
Which is where that definite optimism comes in.
Right. It's about believing in your own vision, even when it seems impossible.
So how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate that kind of defiant optimism? How do we find the courage to pursue those 0 to 1 ideas?
I think it starts with being curious, being willing to ask questions, to challenge the status quo, to look for those hidden truths that other people might be missing.
It's about training yourself to see the world differently, to notice the things that other people don't notice.
Yeah. And to be willing to act on those insights, to take risks, to experiment, to fail, and to learn from those failures.
To embrace that whole iterative process that we hear so much about in the startup world.
Exactly. It's about constantly testing your assumptions, refining your ideas, and getting better with each iteration.
So it's not about being right all the time. It's about being willing to be wrong, to learn from your mistakes, and to keep moving forward.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. And it's not easy. Building a company, creating something new, it's incredibly challenging.
But also incredibly rewarding, right? I mean, that's what gets entrepreneurs out of bed in the morning, that chance to make a dent in the universe, to create something that has a real impact.
I think so, yeah. There's nothing quite like the feeling of bringing an idea to life, of seeing something that you created out there in the world, making a difference.
It's about leaving your mark on the world, creating a legacy that will outlive you.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe even changing the world in the process.
Well, that's what Peter Thiel is all about, right? 0 to 1, creating the future.
Totally.
And that wraps up our deep dive into 0 to 1. It's been an incredible journey exploring Thiel's ideas about innovation, entrepreneurship, and the power of thinking differently.
It really has. A lot to chew on.
So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just starting out, we hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought, some new perspectives on how to build a better future.
And maybe even inspired you to go out there and create your own 0 to 1.
That's what we're hoping for. Until next time, keep thinking big, keep challenging conventions, and keep creating the future you want to see.
Kindly head down to description and click the link to purchase the book.
Thank you for listening to us. Please kindly like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, please let us know which book you would like us to summarize.